Jan, you're a farmer yourself,
Yes.
and circular economy is a relatively new concept. And right now, circular economy is one of the top priorities for the European Commission and European Parliament. And would you say agriculture is the leader of the topic?
Oh, I wouldn't say the leader, but it's definitely very important in the whole circular economy. You have to keep in mind that a lot of products that we use in daily life are produced by agriculture, and a lot of products that we can reuse in agriculture. So circular economy in agriculture is very important. And sometimes I have even the feeling that we talk about circular economy here in the European Union, here in this building, that sometimes agriculture has been forgotten, and that would be a shame.
In agriculture, what are the key and most difficult questions to implement in circular economy?
Well, if I think about circular economy in agriculture, at this moment we're discussing in the fertilizer regulation, so it's the reuse and use of nutrients. Without the use of nutrients, we can't produce food, we can't produce any agricultural products, so that's very important. At the moment, unfortunately, some of the nutrients that we use or some of the nutrients that are used in other industries can be recovered and can be reused in agriculture again. At the moment, we are not using that full potential of that reuse of those nutrients. Instead, we are importing those nutrients, for example, by mineral fertilizers. And I see that a lot of new resources, organic resources, think about, for example, animal manure, that we can process in such a way that we can replace or complement with mineral fertilizer.
So is it true that with the current regulation 50% of fertilizers are left out of the scope?
I'm not sure about this figure, but it's absolutely true that a lot of other resources for fertilizer are not used at this moment. Like I said, for example, animal manure, of course it's used by a farmer on farm level, but in the European Union at the moment, some livestock farms have a surplus of animal manure. They have to get rid of that animal manure, but instead, because of legislation, they can buy in, or they have to buy in, mineral fertilizer. And that's very strange that they can't use their own animal manure, but have to buy in mineral fertilizer. So this is a typical example of a potential, a potential of circular economy, that we can reuse the nutrients in animal manure.
Do we see a lot of illegal fertilizers on the market at the moment?
I don't have an idea, I don't have a figure of that, but this is of course also the purpose of the fertilizer regulation, to give a CE mark and to prevent indeed the trade of illegal fertilizers. By other words, to improve the free movement of fertilizers, legal fertilizers, within the European Union, and then not only focusing on mineral fertilizers, but also have a better free movement of organic fertilizers.
So once again, because circular economy fertilizer is such a new term and topic, can you give in your own words description or your own understanding of what it is?
Yes, I think it's very simple in a way. We have to close the cycles. So we have to close, when you talk about nutrients, we have to close the nutrient cycle. Farmer is using nutrients, is producing food, we eat the food, and well, we are giving back the nutrients again somewhere, and we have to reuse that nutrients again for agriculture. And this mineral cycle at the moment is not completely round. There's a lot of still leakage to the water and even to the oceans, and we put in an artificial way mineral fertilizer. So the goal for me for circular economy is that we reduce the amount of mineral fertilizer that we put in the mineral cycle, nutrient cycle, and that we prevent the leakage of nutrients to the water.
So one of the main mottos of circular economy, your waste is my resource. How can it be applied to farm management?
Well, a lot of, for example, organic waste, for organic resources for fertilizer are now considered as organic waste. And that would be a shame. So I said there is a surplus sometimes of animal manure, is then considered as a waste. With new techniques we can valorize that animal manure, that organic waste, into worthwhile organic fertilizer so that we can reuse it again instead consider it as a waste.
At the moment, what are the most pressing matters for farmers in this regulation?
To close the nutrient cycle, for example, at farm level, but also to close the mineral circle at European level. There are some areas in the European Union where we have a surplus of nutrients, and in some regions you have a lack of nutrients. And so we have to try to solve that problem, to have a better free movement of fertilizers. Well, at the moment, the old legislation only provided a good free movement of mineral fertilizers. Now we want to have also a free movement of organic fertilizers, and that can be, for example, also a better free movement of animal manure, compost, so the organic fertilizers at this point. For the farmers, very important because they can not only see animal manure as a waste, but can valorize them and even make money out of it.
So what about fertilizer producers? What are their most pressing matters with this regulation?
Well, an important part of the legislation is also considering about the contamination of mineral fertilizers by, for example, heavy metals or other contaminants. There is a limit of contaminants allowed in those mineral fertilizers, and they are considered by the fertilizer industry quite strict, for example on cadmium. And that is for them an issue to find resources of mineral phosphate in this case that have low content of cadmium. Or if they can't find it, that they have to have some techniques to filter out that cadmium.
How the new regulation would change EU fertilizer market?
In a way that there is a better free movement of organic fertilizers, and in a way that also more types of fertilizers are available for the farmer. So not only mineral fertilizers, but also fertilizers on the basis of organic resources. So in the end, really, if we can close the mineral cycles in a better way, it will save the farmer costs. But also it is of course much sustainable because we can prevent also the leakage of nutrients to, for example, water and oceans and things like this. So a better reuse, more sustainable, and also reduction of costs.
Why circular economy is suggesting the use of locally produced fertilizers? It is often much cheaper to import fertilizers from emerging economy.
I think that's not only always true. I think there is a huge availability of organic fertilizers locally. But because of legislation, European legislation, it was not always possible to use that organic fertilizer. And now with this regulation, I hope that it is possible. So there is more availability for the farmer to use that local organic fertilizer. And I think then it can, instead of increasing the cost, we can reduce the cost of the farmer to buy fertilizers.
Do you expect circular economy fertilizers to be exported?
Within the European Union, if you can say so, yes, there's a better free movement of it. I can also think of that if the European Union has a clear CE mark for fertilizer, so that it's tested and that it's evaluated, that it's maybe also more interested to export it also to the rest of the world, yes. And then indeed what we did before, only we had a CE mark for mineral fertilizers, now we can have also a CE mark for organic fertilizers. So in that aspect, that's a huge difference, that now also it might be possible for organic fertilizers to export it outside the European Union.